Unit 3, Guan-tastro-phy for Professionals. Unique China Part 2, Unforeseen Consequences of Guan-tastro-phy Decision-Making. Things that can go wrong in China and nowhere else. So what are the implications of this notion of Guan-tastro-phy as a unique aspect of Chinese negotiating to Westerners trying to do business in China? Well, there are a few unforeseen consequences that are related to Guan-tastro-phy that I want you to be aware of. So the road has some potholes in it, and I want you to avoid them. Unforeseen negative consequence number 1. Since Chinese businesses and businessmen are always looking to build or repay Guan-tastro debts, sometimes some of their decisions about hiring or picking service providers are made for some of the wrong reasons. And they are not picking the best people, and they're not picking the most effective suppliers. They are trying to build or repay Guan-tastro debts. And this leads to some bad decisions. This leads to some service providers that are not great, and they hire people that are not optimal for their positions. And there's another ramification to this suboptimal hiring and suboptimal selection process, and it's because so much personality and so many relationships are involved here that sometimes Chinese decision makers don't want to make anyone lose face by having a backup in place, or shunting that unqualified but well-connected worker off to a unimportant job. So bottlenecks develop, and it could really threaten the operation of the entire organization. And it seems very easy to fix, but in fact, there are Guan-tastro reasons why you can't take the simple step of fixing this. So this leads to UNC, or unintended negative consequence number 1, takeaway. Don't be so quick to point out that there are more direct or efficient ways of getting a certain job done. It's very possible they know what a stationery store is, and they know what a receptionist is supposed to do. They're not waiting for some Westerner to come in and point out the fact that you're supposed to pick up the phone when it rings. And this has been a pain in their neck for quite some time. And you're not helping matters by just pointing out that there's a stationery store across the street and you should buy your supplies there. So hold your tongue and wait until you can talk to someone that you trust and find out what the situation is. Unintended negative consequence number 2. Some Chinese counterparties use Guan-tastro as an excuse to restrict your access to real decision makers. And they want to keep things secret. So they say, oh, I have Guan-tastro with this regulator. You don't have to worry about it. I'll take care of it. But what they're really doing is not smoothing the path and making things work better. What they're really doing is protecting their own access and their own channels to decision makers, and possibly covering up some suboptimal decisions. By keeping you in the dark, they're preventing you from operating independently. You'll always need them because you don't know how the process works because you've never seen it. They're keeping it in the dark. And this is why I tell my clients, always expand your network. Always try to get overlapping and redundant contacts so that if one avenue is blocked, you'll have other routes to get to the same place. When it comes to Guan-tastro talk, less is more. The more your Chinese counterparts talk about Guan-tastro, the less comfortable you should be. Over-reliance on Guan-tastro may be a tip-off that the person across from you either has no intention of sharing his contacts or knowledge with you, but it may also be a red flag that something is wrong. And think about an accountant, or think about a colleague or a business partner who's always talking about regulators and the IRS. Saying, oh, don't worry, the IRS will never find out. Whoa, wait a minute, what are you talking about? That's a problem. Honest people don't talk this way. And in China, it's the same. If someone's always talking about their Guan-tastro connections, they may be putting up a smoke screen, or they may be doing something that requires Guan-tastro to evade detection. So this should be a red flag. So let's talk a little bit about Guan-tastro as a red flag. If you need connections and you need special relationships just to do a transaction, this is a warning. And this may mean that entered into a business, either a business deal or a type of business transaction that you have no business taking part in. Sometimes bottlenecks will exist in key industries such as media, transportation, rail is a particularly big one, anything having to do with the oil industry. These are state-owned industries or highly regulated industries or pillar industries, and it's unlikely that these bottlenecks are going to go away for good anytime soon. Disreputable Guanxi connections can fix things in the short term, but in the long term, these problems will always come back. The reason is you never really had permission to be in that industry or taking part in that transaction in the first place. And Guanxi connections can sort of paper over the problem in the short term, but eventually it's going to come back to haunt you. So a final warning on Unit 3, the map of your China network should resemble a spider web, not a point, not a line, and not a ladder that goes directly from point A to point B. I know we spoke about this once before, but it bears reminding right now. You always want to have alternatives. You always want to have different routes and different people you can go to complete any transaction or to get information. And in China, the people who get into trouble are the Westerners who have a single point of contact within China. No matter how good that and reliable and trustworthy that single person is, eventually it's going to cause problems. You always need a plan B. You always need an alternative counterparty and route to information. Thank you very much. That takes care of the main lecture for Unit 3. I look forward to talking to you again soon.